Welcome to the Sunday service for the First Church in Boston, here in the Back Bay. The guest minister for today is the Reverend David Breeden.
Lovely, thank you. Welcome to First Church Boston. I'm the Reverend Dr. David Breeden. I'm the Senior Minister at First Unitarian Society in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'm visiting today, and so if you're visiting, that's why I will probably forget a few things or not notice a few things. We all do things a little differently, so my congregation in Minneapolis is the birthplace of congregational humanism back in 1916. By Boston terms, that's not very long ago, but we have been sustaining as a Unitarian Universalist humanist congregation for a number of years now. And I'm in town to do the men's lectures last Friday night and this coming Friday night. And I thank the Men's Committee for inviting me. It's very kind of them to do. The top of your order of service has a little Lemony Snicket line. That's where the title of my talk comes from. Love can change a person the way a parent can change a baby, awkwardly and often with a great deal of mess. So, whoever you are, wherever you are from, whoever you love, and whatever your faith tradition, you are welcome here. You are welcome here in this intentionally and radically inclusive place. And I'm so glad you're here today. Do I announce the opening song? Probably so. Please stand as you're willing and able then and turn in the gray hymnal to number 108. Number 108. Please be seated. We light this chalice, steeped in tradition. We light this flame anew, reminding ourselves to hope and dedicating ourselves to justice. Oops, that went out. I told you I would probably forget a few things. If you will please repeat with me the First Church Boston affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
How about this one? Is it working? Yes. Thank you. Okay. My apologies. Things were not as put together administratively as we would like this past week, and we left off the MIMS lecture on the announcements. The announcements, there was a wonderful MIMS lecture on last Friday night, 2 days ago, in this place, and we co-sponsor that lectureship with King's Chapel. So the next one, this Friday night, is going to be King's Chapel. It will be David Breeden, again, following up on some of the fascinating stuff that he laid down for us 2 nights ago about Pentecostalism and its relation to Unitarian Universalists. So if you think those two things could never come together, listen to this man. He knows very well. Also, right after the coffee hour, in the middle of the coffee hour, I will be teaching a course on UU 101. If you want to know what this strange religion is, or how it's been conceived over the past 3 or 4 centuries, come to the parlor, which is in the brownstone, first building after the modern building. And other announcements. We have other announcements? Yes, come on in. That, for those who couldn't get all of that, Liz is going to be out in the foyer selling greeting cards with pictures from Hale House. Hale House is the old folks' home, elderly people's home that we. How do you say that correctly? Okay. Anyway, for a lovely place right down the street as part of this church, and we've helped put it up originally, and we help support it now. Anyone else with an announcement? Okay.
Good morning. Please join me as you are in this responsive reading 655. Change alone is unchanging. Whosoever wishes to know about the world must learn about it in its particular details. Knowledge is not intelligence. In searching for the truth, be ready for the unexpected. Change alone is unchanging. The same road goes both up and down. The beginning of a circle is also its end. Not I, but the world says it. All is one. And yet everything comes in season.
Good morning. Good morning. It works. Thank you, Craig. I haven't done this before, and it made me do a little thinking. And I remember in high school wondering what life was all about. Why? And I did some reading and so forth, and I thought, maybe I'll find out in college. And I took philosophy courses and all sorts of other things. And at the end of 4 years, the best I could do was, it was something to be lived. Now, many, many, many decades later, I still agree with that. And I also see that there's a lot of joy, and there are a lot of things that aren't so joyous. And the joys should be enjoyed, and that other things need to be learned from and worked through. And I also found that it's good to do that by sharing, and that's what our joys and concerns are all about. I think you do it first, don't you? I'm gonna start with something that shows, at least to me, a complex one of these, which is both a joy and a concern. And that was the joy I felt on Tuesday when I voted. And I felt that I was in a state that I could live in, and that I felt joyous about being able to do that and see the impact in our state and others sharing that experience. My concern, obviously, is that there's some very, very painful things going on right now. There are divisions that appear to be getting farther apart. Friday night we heard about some of those, and that's a profound concern. Would others like to share their joys and concerns?
Good morning again. I have a joy. So on November 13th, 1955, Mary Jane Hebert and Joseph Richard Mudge got married. And they're my parents, and they are gone now, but I am so glad that they got together and had 3 of us. And so I share that joy with you today.
Big one for you.
Thank you. My joy is that a week ago, my grandson, Kai Michael Benson Rodrigo, in Ventura, California, was able to celebrate his first anniversary. It's wonderful to have a next generation in the family.
Going once, going twice. I got to end on a joy. I'm joyous about getting on an airplane on Thursday and seeing a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old for a hunk of time.
Thanks so much. reading this morning is from a book called The Art of Gathering: How We Meet and Why It Matters by Priya Parker. This is a book that I am working with my staff. It's about the purpose of gathering. She writes, any number of studies support a notion that's obvious to many of us. Much of the time we spend in gatherings with people disappoints us. With the occasional exception, my mood in conferences usually swings from boredom, despair, and rage. Duncan Green, a blogger and specialist in international development, confesses in The Guardian, Green's take isn't unique to conferences. The 2015 State of Enterprise Work Survey found that, quote, wasteful meetings were employees' top obstacle to getting work done. Now, this book was, by the way, published pre-COVID, so things have changed a little bit. We don't even seem to be thrilled with the time we spend with our friends. A 2013 study, The State of Friendship in America 2013, A Crisis of Confidence, found that 75% of respondents were unsatisfied with their relationships. Meanwhile, in How We Gather, a recent report on the spiritual life of young people, Angie Thurston and Casper Ter Queel writes, quote, as traditional religion struggles to attract young people, millennials are looking elsewhere with increasing urgency. As much as our gatherings disappoint us, though, we tend to keep gathering in the same tired ways. Most of us remain on autopilot when we bring people together, following stale formulas, hoping that the chemistry of a good meeting, conference, or party will somehow take care of itself, that thrilling results will magically emerge from the usual staid inputs. It is almost always a vain hope. When we do seek out gathering advice, we almost always turn to those who are focused on the mechanics of gathering: chefs, etiquette experts, floral artists, event planners. But by doing so, we inadvertently shrink a human challenge into a logistical challenge. We reduce the question of what to do with people to a question of what to do about things. PowerPoints, invitations, AV equipment, cutlery, refreshments. We are tempted to focus on the stuff of gatherings because we believe those are the only details we can control. I believe that's both short-sighted and a misunderstanding about what actually makes a group connect and a gathering matter. love history, and especially Universalist and Unitarian history. And this institution, founded in 1630, has a lot of history. And I also love your catchphrase, "Passion led us here," which I think is a perfect way of stating at once the sometimes problematic and sometimes proud history of Unitarian Universalism. I perhaps have an odd view of history. I am a humanist after all. I don't see it as grand or awe-inspiring. I see it as people doing things. Some grand things and some despicable things over time, with most of what we do falling somewhere between those two poles. I'm not one of those doomsayers, even though I'm not an optimist either, I would say. I believe that the world is indeed on fire, but it always has been on fire, and it always will be. That's why I'm a fan of Heraclitus. Unlike most of the Mediterranean people in the world of that time, Heraclitus saw the cosmos as on fire, always changing. And he saw the world as one, not a dualistic world of materiality and spirit, but only and everywhere one thing, and all things as one thing. Thus, he wrote the fragments that we put together for a reading this morning. And first one was, "Whosoever wishes to know about the world must learn about it in its particular details." You've got to look really close. And of course, he most famously wrote, "No one can step into the same river twice. It's not the same river, and it's not the same person." Fire can be a frightening thing, and change is a frightening thing, yet change alone is unchanging. Everything is always on fire. Thus it is that this congregation has participated in some grand things and some not so grand things through the centuries. We celebrate the grand, and we own up and condemn the not so grand. I saw on your website there's going to be a reading group with Clint Smith's How the Word is Passed, a reckoning with the history of slavery across America. Reading that book is most certainly a way of taking a hard look at the not so grand past. Yes, passion led the congregation here, and as human beings, we all must every day begin again in love, and we try to be better and do better every day. Back in the year 2000, the American writer Bell Hooks wrote this, quote, "I feel our nation is turning away from love, moving into a wilderness of spirit so intense we may never find our way home again. I write of love to bear witness both to the danger in this movement and to call for a return to love," end quote. She also wrote this, "We do not have to love, we choose to love. When we understand love as the will to nurture our own and another's spiritual growth, it becomes clear that we cannot claim to love if we are hurtful and abusive. Love and abuse cannot coexist," end quote. Now that's what I want to talk about with you a little bit today, embracing the fire of change and beginning again in love. As creatures capable of strategizing and planning, the work for every one of us is to minimize the not so grand and maximize the grand things. And thus the title of my talk today, From Lemony Snicket. Now, U.S. Army strategists invented an acronym VUCA, V-U-C-A, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. Volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Now, clearly, the Army strategists who coined that term thought that some situations are more VUCA than others are. In war scenarios, perhaps that's true, but in life, I agree with Heraclitus. The human situation is always volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Now, the acronym SNAFU was also coined in the military. I want to talk about another acronym, and I just invented it, SNEB, S-N-E-B. Situation normal, everything's burning, always. And I agree with the late Bell Hooks. What we have here, I should say it as does a cool hand Luke, what we have here is a failure to love. And yes, I also agree with Cornel West that justice is what love looks like in public. As Bell Hooks saw it, this nation is now in the throes of a love crisis, which is also a spiritual crisis. So, how do we Unitarian Universalists, a tiny band of liberal religionists, how do we Unitarian Universalists change the direction of a nation in this VUCA time, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, and this SNEB time, situation normal, everything's burning? After all, this isn't 1630, the year this congregation gathered. In those days, people got fined if they didn't attend church. Wouldn't it be nice if we could send the cops door to door and ticket everyone who didn't bother to come to First Church in Boston this morning? Well, wait, that wouldn't be nice, would it? And it wasn't particularly nice in 1630. Force is not the way to get to love. Those two things don't coexist. Force is not the way toward addressing our deep national spiritual crisis. On the other hand, we all know what is happening to attendance at religious institutions these days. Something on the order of 50 Unitarian Universalist congregations have closed down since the beginning of the COVID crisis. This situation is VUCA and it's SNEB. But allow me to say that I think a marvelous, wonderful, and very cool thing is happening. And that very cool thing has been prophesized, if that's kind of the right word, by Wilfred Cantwell Smith, a theologian and a philosopher and anthropologist. The end of organized religion is not the end of religion, he pointed out. The end of organized religion is not the end of religion. Actually, as I see it, it is, as both the Taoist Lao Tzu and the Mandalorian would say, it is the way. Yes, that's how change works. The fact feels very, very unfortunate, yet going with messy change is the way, the only way. Organized religions are to the human spiritual impulse as restaurants are to human nutrition. They're merely a tiny part, one aspect of a much larger thing. In the reading this morning, I quoted Priya Parker from her book, The Art of Gathering. And she writes, any number of studies support a notion that is obvious to many of us. Much of the time we spend in gathering with other people disappoints us. And she quotes a study by Angie Thurston and Casper Kiel. As traditional religion struggles to attract young people, millennials are looking elsewhere with increasing urgency, end quote. We can add that Gen Z is looking even more urgently as they attend traditional religious institutions with even less frequency than millennials. One of the central points of my men's lectures is that in American history, religion has been one of the few places that people could openly revolt against systems of power. The Massachusetts Bay Colony was a revolt against the theocracy that was the British Empire. Many then revolted against the theocracy that was the Massachusetts Bay Colony. The antinomians, such as Anne Hutchinson, the Quakers, like Mary Dyer, and that list goes on, objections against theocracy. As I outlined in my lectures, classic Pentecostalism was an open revolt against both religious and social authority, using a Bible verse from Christian scriptures, Galatians 3:28. There is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither bond nor free, there is neither male nor female, for ye are all one in Christ Jesus. The African-American preacher William J. Seymour, one of the chief founders of Pentecostalism, had a revolutionary vision of society, a religious society where race, class, gender, national origin, a spiritual society where none of that mattered. And Pentecostalism was the revolt. Yes, Christian nationalism is another sort of revolt. But the biggest spiritual revolt just now is a silent one. People are voting with their feet. Those feet may be going to brew pubs or brunches on Sunday mornings, but they're not going to religious institutions. Situation normal. Everything's burning. Now, I agree with Reverend William J. Seymour. Religion is about liberation. Liberation both personally and socially. I also agree that liberation for all is available and possible to us human beings. And here's what I think. Religion, or spirituality, if you prefer that word, is you. Religion is you. It's not some big, huge thing. It starts out with you, where you are. Then religion becomes your society, and religion is you and your society. All of this is together in a liberation forward. No one's getting fined this morning for not attending religious institutions, not in the United States anyhow. Ideally nowadays, you and not your society decide your religious commitments. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And I assume you do too. Organized religion will survive. I don't doubt that. And religious institutions will go on doing both grand and not so grand things. Situation normal. The liberation in Christian nationalism, unfortunately, is about the liberty to impose unliberty, if you will, upon others. That is a negative sort of freedom. Liberation to do what is an extremely important question. What are you taking the liberty to do? And the liberal tradition that is Unitarian Universalism has contributed to a problem, perhaps something I call terminal uniqueness, by which I mean individualism, terminal uniqueness. Through time, Unitarians and Universalists have been quite good at insisting upon individual liberty of conscience. Yay, grand thing. Sure, individual liberty of conscience is vital, it's essential, but what we haven't done well is develop and practice a theory of communal values, congregational values. Yes, covenant is good. We need to go deeper, I believe. William J. Seymour and the early Pentecostals managed to do that kind of thing. They articulated a system of communal values within a liberation practice. Those of us practicing liberal religion need to do that same thing, and it needs to be done in a way that everyone can understand and value and practice. Because as someone who grew up among the poor and uneducated, I can bear witness to something. What sounds brilliant in a graduate seminar doesn't necessarily sound so good out on the farm or out on the street. We forget that. Simple question, why would a bunch of individualists waste their time attending a gathering where everyone else is being an individualist too? Not sure. Let's face it, we Unitarian Universalists are at the moment sustaining a model of religious practice. We are not innovating a model of religious practice, and that's what we're called to do. So what might innovation look like? One thing I'm sure of, all liberal religious institutions are first and foremost scrambling right now to figure out how to survive because everything's burning. And we're fighting for fewer and fewer people who are even remotely interested in organized religion. Thriving is another level of challenge. Survive, we will. Thrive, it's a good question. But the answer is far more than merely an attempt to keep up with the times, because the times are always changing. I think that we in the United States are currently in the beginnings of a second Reformation. And you may be thinking, well, wait a minute, Unitarian and Universalist tradition has been part of the movement since that other Reformation back there. Hasn't Unitarian and Universalist traditions innovated anything? Well, sure. And I think that our great innovation is, I would, quick drum roll there, our innovation is secularity, which sounds a little weird, but I want to think about it a moment. Perhaps such a claim is weird. How could a religious tradition innovate secularity? Isn't that the opposite? Well, yeah, secularity has happened outside of Unitarian Universalist influence. I'll be the first to admit that. But means and methods of secularity have evolved within our tradition as well. Things such as a trust in the individual conscience to evolve its own eclectic spirituality is key to the Unitarian Universalist tradition and is key to what UUism can do for future generations of increasingly secularizing people. Think about it for a moment. We wring our hands over the loss of children who were raised Unitarian Universalist. As many of you know, the vast majority of children raised UU simply leave organized religion of any sort. I have 3 millennial kids. None of them attend church on Sunday morning. What if that is exactly the point, however? Creating conditions in which people are capable of going forth from a congregation and being religious in the world. And in terms of congregating, let's think long and deeply about why we go about doing that and why we would like for it to continue if we do. What is the value added for people? And remember those words of Priya Parker, much of the time we spend in gathering with other people disappoints us. Since we can't and don't want to ticket those who don't attend congregations, why might they want to attend? Or more radically, why might they need to attend? Let's get there. I think the philosopher Alan Locke, one of the central figures of the Harlem Renaissance, got it right. He wrote this, quote, "Democracy in culture means equally wide-scale appreciation of the things of the spirit." I'll repeat that. Democracy in culture means equally wide-scale appreciation of things of the spirit. Alan Locke was on to something important there, I think. Dr. Locke knew that he was speaking to very privileged people, people with first-class educations. Locke stood for art, culture, integration of peoples, and for democracy. And he was attempting to prevent exactly the sort of spiritual crisis, the sort of love crisis that bell hooks wrote about. That's why he said this. One more time, I'll say it. Democracy and culture means equally wide-scale appreciation of things of the spirit. Hear what Dr. Locke is saying. Democracy requires the ability to appreciate things of the spirit. William J. Seymour and the Pentecostals of the early 20th century were not accorded the right to appreciate things of the spirit. So they took that power. They liberated themselves despite poverty and minimal access to education, because they know democracy means equally wide-scale appreciation of things of the spirit. That is the task I believe we are called to do. Love and liberation. The ability of every person to experience and enjoy things of the spirit. Art, leisure, contemplation, so that finally we Americans achieved what some have claimed long ago. Well, remember that little phrase, yeah, we've got life, we've got liberty. Then there's that pursuit of happiness, real happiness, happiness of the spirit. I'm convinced that a person who is truly spiritually free would never, ever dream of oppressing another person. And that's one reason I am a Unitarian Universalist today. Many Americans over time have dreamed of establishing a theocracy here in this city on a hill, as the founder of this congregation phrased it. All attempts at theocracy have failed. And to me, that's a really glorious fact. Yes, Lemony Snicket is right. Love can change a person the way a parent can change a baby, awkwardly and often with a great deal of mess. Our situation today is normal. Everything's burning. Let's love the mess. That's what I call us to do. Let's love the mess. Let's love the change. And let's begin here and now to resettle America and get it right this time. So may it be. We will now take our morning offering for the good works of this society.
The offertory for today is Lord, I Know I've Been Changed, a spiritual arranged by Larry Shackley. If you'd like to support the work of this church with a financial donation, you may write out a check to First Church Boston and mail it to 66 Marlborough Street, 02116. You can also donate via text. You will receive confirmation via email. Thank you.
extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. There we go. Got to get that oxygen out of there, eh? If you will please. Oh, you're already standing. We don't do it this way. See, there you go. And join with me singing our closing hymn, number 301. Go out into the world. Be fearless. Ask questions. Hold on to what is good. Strengthen the weak. Comfort the fearful. Do what makes you come alive. Rejoice in the power of the human spirit. So may it be.
Feel free to join us live each Sunday at 66 Marlborough Street at the corner of Berkeley Street in Back Bay. If you'd like more information about programs, services, or membership at First Church, please visit the website www.firstchurch.org or send an email to office@firstchurchboston.org. Thank you.